I got a chance to meet a gentleman by the name of Scott Painter, who is the CEO of TrueCar.com. And they came on and just did a segment. I thought, you know what, this is great that you're on San Diego, but I think the rest of the country needs to hear about this, especially some of the Armed Forces guys that listen to us that are coming back. And of course, the name of the company, TrueCar.com. I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm going to let him tell you about it because it's really a unique way to buy a car, and it's really a paradigm shift in the way people buy cars. Scott, thanks for joining the Big Biz Show today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yay! And I apologize in advance for rusty nails. You know, we're a serious business show that has a stand-up comedian on the side. So
you need a little relief. You know that. A couple chuckles around the lot.
Scott, tell us about the company first of all. How overall, just sort of the idea behind TrueCar.com.
Well, first of all, I want to just congratulate Paul Allen and the Seahawks for winning the Super Bowl. Paul invested in TrueCar 60 days ago, so we became Seahawks fans almost instantly.
well, I can, that was a big day for you guys, and one day hopefully we'll see a TrueCar.com ad in the Super Bowl, meaning that you can afford to pay the $3 million for 10 seconds.
If that penciled, that would be great. So TrueCar really is about a new way to buy a car, and I think that technology has certainly introduced all sorts of new ways to do almost everything as a consumer, but there's nothing more time-consuming or frustrating or filled with anxiety than the thought of buying and negotiating for your car. And so what we do at TrueCar is really premised around providing consumers with upfront pricing information. So this is from a network of dealers around the country. About 1/3 of all car dealers are part of the TrueCar network, and they simply acknowledge that consumers want to transparently see what they're getting into so that there's no back and forth. And while there's always negotiation and anxiety in the car buying process, the goal at TrueCar is to eliminate negotiation, to be as negotiation-free as possible, and we do that through this upfront pricing.
Yeah, I like the way it lays it out here for you, nice and easy. Unusually low priced, great price, good price, and above market. You get your choice there to see where your car falls.
Well, it's important because one of the things that we're doing, in addition to really forcing the dealers to play by a different set of rules, which puts the customer in charge, is we've also decided to publish for the first time what everyone else paid for their car. And this is really remarkable. This is where big data, computational analytics, the power of information really come to the individual transaction. You can now be a first-time car buyer and in under 1 minute know exactly what is the fair price for a car because everyone else who bought that same car, not only around your local home and in your market, but also around the country, you can now see what they paid. And we publish that information right at the beginning of the experience.
And I think that's really important because that is a true lesson in fair market value. You know, I mean, if you think about it, and if you don't know what everybody else is paying, what sort of relevance does the price have? I mean, if now you have context. We're going to take him over the break here, and what you check out TrueCar.com. Scott Painter, the CEO of the company, and we'll talk about sort of the soup to nuts approach of buying a car these days. Big Biz Show. Right. Scott Painter, the CEO of TrueCar.com. And so let's talk about this, Scott. I got to say, we've all been buying cars the same way for so long. And I remember when eBay tried to come out and have us buy cars on eBay, and I know that's a bit of a success story. But let's face it, most of us schmoes that aren't in the business, Scott, decide I'm going to go buy a car. I got to go to the dealer. I got to try to negotiate. I got to sit in a little room with the manager and such. And what you guys are doing is you guys are arming us with a lot more information. And I think there's also a bit of a network that's going on here to whereby, TrueCar certified dealers have made, great pricing available to everybody. And it's an upfront pricing estimate. So let's talk a little bit about what we talked about coming into this break. And that was the fact that you're providing us with sort of an average of what everybody else is paying for that car. But also let's also talk about TrueCar certified dealers and what that means to me when I go buy my next car.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, I first of all think that the Internet has completely transformed how we shop, and that definitely applies to cars. If you go back even 10, 15 years, the ability to go online and get complete information about the product has really changed what used to be sort of the behavior where we would walk into the car dealership and submit ourselves to the salesman who is the product expert. Mm-hmm. And really what that's done is it has shifted a lot of the focus on the transaction and the deal itself. And so really what TrueCar represents is a real shift in buyer behavior, not just shopper behavior. So there's no doubt that consumers who are looking to buy cars go on the web and they get informed, and in many cases, they're more informed than the person selling the car. I think what we're talking about doing is making a really smart financial decision with information that's never been published before.
I'm not surprised you're saying that, though, to me. I honestly am not. I'm not surprised that when you say that the buyers are now more informed than the sellers, boy, I think across the board, but more in cars than anything else. It's the second biggest purchase we're going to make, and I don't know that was the case all the time, and I think you're spot on. I think this has happened with the advent of the internet because, A, it's arming us with a lot of good information, but the other side of the fence is that we're making better decisions, a lot of it as a result of what happened in the economy the last 5 or 6 years. Tell me if this sort of information that you're giving us so easily by going to TrueCar.com, is there any other way that we could have gotten this information? I mean, is this it seems to be a big, well-kept secret for us as buyers?
First of all, I think there's a lot of work that goes into gathering the data, analyzing the data, and presenting it. As a company, it's a hard position to take with the industry because intuitively transparency isn't helpful. But really, the awful secret is that the business of selling cars is much tougher than most people realize. The average millennial, which is a consumer who's under the age of 35, a digital native who grew up on technology, the average consumer thinks that car dealers are making 15 to 20% profit when they sell a car. And in fact, they're only making 2%.
Wow.
So that really speaks to a massive trust gap. And we asked that same group of folks, what would you pay a dealer if you knew that you were getting the car at their cost and they were only going to make profit if you wrote it in like a tip to a waiter or a waitress? And the overwhelming majority of consumers feel that fairness exists at about 7 to 10%. And the moral to the story is that truth is more profitable, and dealers could make probably 2 to 5 times more profit if they actually just played with the cards face up. And so that's the underlying premise about the power of information. And the dealers that are on our program are not on the program simply because we're forcing them to be on the program, that this is the way that things go in the future. They are on the program because they understand that the trust gap that exists makes selling cars inefficient.
Yeah.
And this is about rebooting that relationship.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do, Scott, is I'd like to have you back, not only this is to talk about TrueCar.com, but to kind of be our expert on this industry, because, I mean, it is so ingrained in us. I mean, we're purchasing cars, and there's a retail number for cars. There's a data point number for cars that comes on, that comes out every month. So, Scott, I'd like to invite you to come back and be an expert on the program. I really appreciate your time, pal.
I really appreciate you having me.
There we go. Yeah. Scott Painter.
I've been on the side here the last couple minutes.
You gonna buy a new car?
Over 750,000 cars available.